You know, it's really funny. You know, so Eric and I were talking the other day. So you know, you get really excited when TiVo first comes out and all these DVRs because you can skip commercials. Now we're back to letting the commercials run because we surf the web during commercials. You know, we read and watch. You know, look at other stuff.
Also, commercials
Jessica
are like
Connors.
culturally relevant. Like,
They are. You learn
you have
stuff in
to keep up.
commercials these days.
Yeah, got to keep up with what's going on in commercials.
Yeah.
I just cut our cord. We don't even watch regular television. There's no point in paying for it.
Well, you had Comcast, right? I don't think it was working even when you had the cord.
Yeah, we
You get a
are.
Roku?
We just use Apple TV.
Okay, same difference.
Yeah. All right. So which TV shows is everybody watching right now?
Fear the Walking Dead, since The Walking Dead is on hiatus right now.
Yeah. Yeah. The plot on that looks so interesting. Just as soon as they were like, it's Walking Dead before it's The Walking Dead, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds genius.
It panics me a bit. If Fear the Walking, not The Walking Dead, because it's already happened. Fear the Walking Dead, you're watching it as it happens, and so you can actually put yourself into that world. It's like, what would I do with kids, in that situation?
And as you could tell, what Tara would do is cover the curtains behind her, and she's got like bars on the windows behind those curtains.
Yes.
Eric, how about you?
I would use them as distractions and run from the zombies.
No, the TV show you're watching.
Oh, geez. Parenting 101.
Throw them in as appetizers.
God. We started watching Lucifer because the season ended, but it's not that great. It's kind of goofy. I don't know. We watch like dumb cooking shows and cooking competitions where someone, I don't know, stuff like that.
Chopped. Yeah. Project or
Chopped, All-Star Academy, whatever thing Food Network comes up with next.
Yeah. How about
Top
you, Jessica?
Chef is a good one, Master Chef.
Yeah, I miss Top Chef. Yeah. Oh my God, we have Angie too. So, Jessica, which TV shows are you watching? And then we'll interview the new Mrs. Ruddock.
Yeah.
No longer Angie Walker.
Yeah.
We've cut our television consumption. We don't watch anything too much anymore. Last night, to fall asleep, we watched The Cosmos on Netflix.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fall asleep with it, just on our phones. I love Neil's voice. It's so soothing. Other than that,
Yeah.
we try to cut our screen time.
That was exactly what I was going to say. His voice is just, oh, yeah.
Great.
Dreamy.
Stars, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you have trouble sleeping, try that. It works like melatonin.
Nice. Angie, welcome back.
I think I sound like I have a frog in my throat, but I figured I would start talking before my triage later today.
Oh.
Warm my voice back up. I was sick, went on the honeymoon and got sick in Bora Bora. Yay!
Sounds like it's going to be like an exotic flu.
Yeah, so I just learned what the Great British Baking Show is all about. I'm halfway through it already. It's on Netflix because we don't have cable. We just do a Roku with Hulu and Netflix. And it's like MasterChef or any of the other cooking shows, but in Britain, and they're all really nice. So it's way better. They give them hugs when they send them home. It was nice.
Oh, wow. That's totally not American.
No.
Not even a little bit. Nope. Oh, wow. We got a whole slew of questions coming in here.
We do. I guess it's time to get started, right?
I guess.
All right. Let's start with the service pack question. From JH. He asks, when patching applying SQL Service Pack to passive node and a cluster, should one put into pause mode or okay to simply run the service pack?
I've never put it into pause mode, and I've patched hundreds, maybe thousands of servers.
Well, but do you patch the passive? I mean, you patch the passive and there's no services running on it, so you really don't have to worry about it. Like the thought is, am I gonna have to worry about something failing over to it in the middle of the service pack? I mean, I've never done it either. Talk about a first world problem there. No, so I've never paused it. I don't know if I was probably gonna get ambitious to like PowerShell script the whole thing out. I would probably put in some kind of pause there, but I'm just not that guy.
Yeah.
What's this about What's this about Terabytosaurus Rex?
That is a presentation that I do about very large databases. So there's things that you want to do to first avoid very large databases, and then once you have one, how you do to cope with the aftermath. And it's like having your own little pet dinosaur. You have to, plan for things ahead of time, and don't bite off more than you can chew.
So you're doing
like
a
Tamagotchi.
Like a Tamagotchi, yes. Only you can't carry it around in your pocket. You have to. Yeah. Disaster recovery.
Is that a Saturday presentation you're doing coming up?
That one's actually from our regular training classes, and I'm doing it for IDERA. IDERA pays us to periodically do free presentations for the community. We give them like our menu of private training courses and just go, here, which one do you want to buy for the community? And they go buy one, and we give it out for free to everybody, and off we go. So it's really awesome how we work that with vendors.
Thanks.
Everybody wins.
Everybody the winner. All right, this question is pretty vague from Abdullah. He says, hello, we have just received new hardware with 124 cores and 1 terabyte of memory to host many of our SQL instances.
Dang.
Big spender.
Bad news, we only licensed Standard Edition.
Wow. One word, virtualization. Virtualization. So normally I'd never buy a host that big, but I just wouldn't do instance stacking. I wouldn't run one Windows OS and then a lot of instance stacking. Have you guys ever run multiple instances on a server, and what problems have you seen from it?
Not willingly. We've inherited them, and it's always has been like, okay, we're going to really stifle this one, which is less important because this other one is just choking it out anyway. So.
I used to have a 4-node cluster with 11 SQL instances on it.
Oh.
Yeah, the biggest challenge was installing patches. There was always some node that said it had to be rebooted. This is back on, before 2008. It was horrible. Even after you rebooted the server, it would say, oh, that server needs a reboot. It would take a miracle for all 4 nodes to agree it's now time to patch. I would reboot like 20 times before it would say it. It was horrible.
Oh boy! Did you end up breaking them off? Did you end up consolidating?
We ended up, upgrading to newer versions where you could install it passively. Back then, the SQL instance had to be in the right state on all 4 instances. Or not the SQL instance, but it had to patch all 4 instances at the same time. So all 4 had to agree that it was ready to be patched.
God, miserable.
It was horrible.
And still, even today, Windows patching is a giant pain in the rear. Do you want to take down all of the instances at once just in order to patch Windows? And Windows patches come out kind of fast and furious. So virtualization adds that little bit layer of, lower performance if and I'm not even going to go down the is virtualization slower or not. But worst case scenario, it's a little slower and you deal with that. But then you get so much better management. Holy smokes, it's way easier.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk about partial restores. Can you recommend a good article on doing partial restores? I want to move my historical data to a separate NDF file so I can restore just the active portion right away so the users can use the database and restore the historical part.
Do we have an article, or can we? I know someone who does a session, training and I've seen it twice.
Is it available publicly? Is there's somewhere their blog?
I don't know. I'm sure she has a blog. Kimberly Tripp has a whole session on it.
Mm-hmm.
At PASS, she'll bring a USB, all these USBs, and she'll unplug them, to simulate, losing a drive, and the server, the database stays online because it's all in memory. It's really cool, but it has to do with the partial restores as well.
I bet if you go to hit Google and you do partial restore site:/SQLskills.com, not semi-skills, SQLskills.com, totally skilled, not semi-skilled at all. I bet she's got blog posts on it too because it's one of her more famous demos. We talk about it in our training classes, but I was just sitting there thinking, I don't think we have a single public post on it.
No, I was working on something similar when I was messing around with some foreign key stuff, but SQL outsmarted me, so I didn't end up writing the post.
Erick will take care of that in the next 15 minutes, though.
Erick, the blogger darling.
Oh, get out of here.
There's Bob Pusateri, a SQL Bob on Twitter. Bob Pusateri has an article, too, on his site to help move your stuff into a historical file group. He has really nice scripts that help you rebuild objects onto other file groups, which is way trickier than it looks like. There's things like off-row data that don't move by default. So.
And if you're on a version prior to 2012, a lot of that stuff is still offline, especially for large varchar and varchar types. So.
All right, a question from John. He says, when looking at statistics properties, it gives the date and time when statistics were last updated. How can I tell if that statistics object was last updated using a full scan or a sample scan, and what that sample scan value was?
I know all of this off the top of my head. So if you're on DBCC show statistics on the table and index that you're interested in, or you can either run the whole command, or you can run it with stat header, which will just give you the top row of output. There will be two columns in the stat header part. One will be rows and one will be rows sampled. If rows equals rows sampled, then you did a full scan. If rows sampled is less than rows, then it used a percentage. You can also hit a function which sys.dmdb stats properties, and if you cross-apply that with the sys.stats, you can pass in the object ID and the stats ID, and that will also tell you rows sampled versus rows in the table. So you can figure out all that stuff there. If you want to calculate a percentage, just put a calculation in your query. But that's the way to tell.
Thanks, Brent Ozar. Why are you still Brent Ozar?
My alter ego. He's logging in first when to start the webcast because I'm slumpy, lazy, and I don't show up on time. So God bless him.
Brent's taking cold drugs and hanging out.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Question from Cameron. He says, if you want to purposely break replication, why would you?
What?
Why would you purposely break replication?
Are you
I don't much. That sounds like something you probably don't want.
Drop the microphone on his way out the door, or?
Should we continue answering this question?
Wow.
If you
Shut
want
down
to
with no weight.
Is it better to unsubscribe from the slave database, or should you delete the publication from the master?
I don't
All he
even.
wants to do
I haven't used that term
restore.
slave database. I assume he's referring to the subscriber.
Subscriber.
Or restore.
Oh,
I just right click on the publication and say drop it, and it takes care of everything.
Like it's hot. Yeah.
Cameron follows up.
No, you don't delete the publication from the I'm
Okay.
confused by the terms that he's using.
I bet. So one thing I would say is I would do Tara's approach rather than trying to remove any subscribers setups, because what happens if you leave the publisher setup and somebody doesn't do the restore? Like if I'm assuming you're trying to restore the publisher, not the subscriber, you can leave a hosed up replication setup behind. So as long as it's only one subscriber, just delete it at the publisher.
If you end up with the host situation, you can run sp remove db publisher or something like that. So remove something, remove db something, and that'll just clean up anything that was left behind.
That's how you know someone has worked with replication before.
Yes.
She's like looking up at her eyes.
Failed over to the DR site and forgot to drop replication beforehand, and it's like orphaned at that point. It's like, what is that command?
Oh, God.
Tara has the best stories.
Oh. Lost lots of sleep.
God bless.
Yeah, she could have her own podcast. Yeah, somebody says. He says it's just to do a restore, and he's not in there just for the sake of breaking stuff. Now that we know his first and last name, so.
I was gonna say, I know how to break replication too. He meant drop it.
God.
All right, let's talk about stack dumps. Chris has a question. He says, my SQL error logs show a stacked up. Total server memory is 16 gigabytes. Mac memory is set up just above 13 gigabytes. LPIM is enabled.
Oh.
Available memory went to 0 just before the crash, according to my monitoring software. I'm thinking I should lower the max memory or disable the LPIM. What do you think?
Need to figure out what is using the memory. But I don't think 13.5 is enough. for the OS.
And that,
the 2.5, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. When Tara says find out what's using the memory, it's not SQL Server, or at least not the engine. It could be other things in SQL Server like integration services or analysis services or whatever. But you set max memory, you set lock pages and memory turned on. So that's cool. That amount is locked. But now, and people often say, I should turn on lock pages in memory. That way I don't have to worry if something else needs RAM. Hell yeah, you do. You just did. You just suffered a crash because of it. SQL Server couldn't back down on the amount of memory it needed. So now your fun journey begins to go troubleshoot what is using that extra memory. What would you guys use in order to find out what tools or what apps are using the extra memory?
Well, I had low memory on my laptop on Monday during a client session after I was finally able to investigate it after the call. In either the app log or the system log, it told me what the top 3 processes that were using the memory, and so it was 2 SQL Server instances and WebEx. Those were the top 3. I'm not too sure if that would be seen, if your actual server crashed though. But maybe there might be low memory alerts in there leading up to the crash.
Yeah, so I would. You're right on the thing in saying lock pages of memory. Should I maybe turn it off? I would while I'm doing the investigating. Just leave it off just to prevent, because this other app is probably going to fire up again before you have the chance to fix it.
All right, let's talk about what to do when your backups fail.
No.
Fred has a question. It says, CheckDB is successful and our backups always complete successfully, but trying to restore the backup gives an error. That the backup failed, the data is invalid. Any thoughts on where to look? He's running SQL 2008 R2 Enterprise, not using any enterprise-only features. 4 backups later, we usually get a good backup that we can restore from.
My first question is, are you running backups with checksum enabled? And do you have page verification turned on for that database? Because you could at least narrow down where the issue is happening. So if you have page verification turned on, SQL will start writing checksums to your pages to make sure that nothing bonky happens to them on disk. And then if you run backups with checksum, SQL will check those checksums as it does the full backup. So you at least have something verifying there that it's not SQL, and that it's something that with your disk media or when you're transferring files over that's happening. The only time I've ever seen that happen was when I was restoring a backup on a dev server, and it turned out that one of the disks on the dev server was actually suffering from some malady, some lurgy. So that was the issue on that. So I would just absolutely verify that it's not something happening on the primary SQL instance, and then my investigation would be on the whatever hardware I have on the instance I'm trying to restore it to.
I've seen it when you write to crappy storage for your backups, like that the backup reports write successfully, but then the data's trash when you go through to read it. But I would like to say, just like the great singer Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 4 out of 5 successful backups. That's not such a bad number. 80%, that's a passing score. You probably didn't need 1 out of 5. It's probably not that big of a deal. Yeah, so that I would just try immediately after the backup finishes, try doing a restore with verify only, either from the same SQL server or from another SQL server. That'll at least tell you if the backup file is host.
All right, back to replication.
How come nobody ever says, what do you guys think about flowers? What's your favorite kind of chocolate?
What is your favorite flower?
How much do you like cross-apply?
Oh. It's dreamy.
Let's see. A question from John. He says, is it possible to mirror via transactional replication a SQL 2008 R2 database to a SQL 2016 database?
Wow. I bet it would be.
I think so, since 2016 goes all the way down to 2005 compatibility level.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Yeah,
that seems like a really cool.
Yeah. The only thing I've ever seen stand in the way is backwards
he's
stuff.
Mirroring and transactional replication. Replication doesn't really care about versions. Mirroring does.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Either way, it should be fine.
Yeah. Should he just upgrade both to 2016?
I bet he's so tired of running with his 2008 R2 box, and he's like just trying to give his users something that has nice new functionality on 2016. That's probably what it is. He's like, here, go query over here. It's really nice and fun. Maybe he's got nice non-clustered column store indexes on the table over there. Make his queries fast. Maybe that's what it is.
Kanye or Wanye West.
Wanye. Oh, Wayne, you are never going to live that down. Wanye.
Where? I think that's a Richie question. Where is Richie?
Oh, he's in Disney World.
Of course he is. He's always getting lost in Disney World.
Driving home.
Yeah, he's on the road.
Let's see here. Question from JH. It says, last year after applying a couple of particular Windows KB updates, issues arose with JVDC TSL connections and had to be removed. Has Microsoft fixed this, and can updates now be applied?
Oh, man, I vaguely...
Who asked the question?
JH.
Okay.
I remember seeing Aaron Bertrand blog about this. Like, this is one of those, the SSL and the connection string I've never been paid too much attention to, but I think Aaron Bertrand blogged about this. Other people are nodding like we vaguely have seen something along these lines.
Yeah, I've just seen some stuff around 2016 with TLS 1.1 and 1.2 having some weirdness, bug things, but like I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't touch it with the 10-foot pole. If you search for SQL Server TLS Aaron Bertrand, and Aaron is Aaron Bertrand, I bet you're going to find a blog post in there where he went into detail on that, because like anything else with SQL Server updates, Aaron Bertrand looks over those with a magnifying glass and a fine-tooth comb. Good man.
In a kilt.
In a kilt. Oh, yeah. Oh, so Rusty Householder already replied with the answer. Blogs.sqlsentry.com, TLS support. I'm going to put that in the resources for everybody there. But, yeah, it is a thing that Aaron blogged about.
Let's see. This is the last comment question. People are being pretty quiet today. From Chris Wood, he says, thanks for the help on the blocking. You helped Chris with blocking?
I believe we did last week, I think. I think we did.
Via a critical care?
Oh, no, it was a question about, I remember this. So it was a database restore involving relativity. He was doing a database restore in relativity, and I think we posted the question on Stack Exchange as well. SP who is active showed blocking, and we couldn't figure out which query it was that was doing the blocking. Turned out it was a system SPID that was doing a full text crawl. So when you finished doing restore, it did a full text crawl and it locked some of the tables in the database. People weren't allowed to access them. Awesome! Gotta love that. So people are like, "Wow,
I could answer that one."
Oh, could you? No, have you had that same problem?
Yeah, embarrassingly.
Unbelievable.
Angie, I'm just getting a shout out. Were you posting on hashtag SQL help?
Nope. Apparently I have an impersonator.
Yeah.
I didn't think there were any other Angies out there. Oh, Tara. Tara. It's really hard to tell apart, I know.
Just one of us cartoons. All our cartoons look alike. All our cartoons look alike.
I get mistaken for Jessica all the time. Hey, we need to buy some stuff. I'm like,
Unsubscribe.
Yeah. Let's see.
We got a bunch rolling in now.
Brett's an awesome name. He says, any experience with Experian correct address, which has to be installed on the database server for SQL CLR? Do you have any experience there?
Oh, I'm vaguely remembering that this calls a web service. That it goes and validates people's addresses, and the way that it does it, whenever you want to like validate someone's address, you call an extended stored procedure, a CLR stored proc, and it goes off and calls a web service. So it's possible that this is working on one node and not other because of firewall rules or network permissions, Windows firewall, UAC. I mean, it could be almost anything involves accessing the interwebs.
I hate to say it, but this is actually something that Master Data Services is good at.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it can totally, like, you can do, like, address lookups and have, like, post office integration where you can, get, whatever, post office valid address for a thing is, it can validate that. I don't know a ton about it because I've only ever seen it in action a couple times, but that's actually something that Master Data Services does well, which I feel filthy saying.
That's a couple of times more than me. Was it? And I'm guessing it didn't require CLR then. It was probably just stuff built into the database server.
Yeah, but I don't know how it was called, so it still might have been CLR, but it was integrated with master data services, so it was like SQL friendly and didn't need to call out to anything else. It was
Nice.
already like built in somewhere.
Doing its thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we talked about this last week from Nate Johnson. He says, I found a couple articles that talk about how compatibility level 90 2005 does not work in SQL 2014. You guys have any confirmation on that? Even though 2014 in fact shows it, it doesn't work.
You can't upgrade directly, isn't that it? Or is that from 2000?
I can't remember either.
In general, you can't do more than two versions,
Two
right?
versions.
You couldn't go through 2005 to 2012 or straight to 2014. You'd have to make the hop in between.
Yeah.
You can't restore, but the compatibility level is there. So on 2014, you can go all the way down to 2005 compatibility level. Like he's saying, the option is there, but apparently some articles are saying it doesn't work. I don't know. I see it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that during the release process, like it worked in SSMS, but the alter didn't work. Like the alter database didn't work, and I think people thought, oh, it's not going to work when it finally releases, like that they're going to yank 2005 compat. But I'm pretty sure it still does work because I distribute Stack Overflow in that format too, and Doug was asking questions about that this week. It should work fine. I don't know if it runs in 2016, if 2005 compat mode runs in 2016. No clue. And who the hell would use that? Why would I swear in the middle of a podcast? Who knows? Don't do that. Don't do that. And by that I mean 2005 compat mode, not swearing. You should totally swear. You're a grown person.
All right. Abdullah asks, or states, he's in progress at building a DR site on a multi-site topology. Any recommendation for SAN replication?
The fast one.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive.
And the cheap one.
Super duper expensive.
Yeah, you don't get much of a choice. You just whatever brand your SAN supports, and I think EMC makes stuff as well, like appliances that'll do between SANs. But cha-ching.
Yeah. And also make sure that you are deleting old snapshots and copies because you can find yourself depending on like how big these copies are, deleting them can take a very long time. So you want to make sure that you have enough room to both copy and have other stuff being deleted off, because deleting 20 terabytes of SAN replication snapshots, time consuming, no matter what.
All right. Well, I guess while we're on the topic of that, do we like async DB mirroring as a DR strategy?
Yes.
Yes.
I do. I used it for years. So when I joined a company 3 years ago, we were on SQL 2000 using log shipping, and then when we upgraded 2005, we were relieved to get rid of log shipping just due to the amount of work it took to fail over to DR site for a lot of servers. It was a lot of work, and we were really excited about mirroring, and we used asynchronous mirroring between our two sites. There's about 300 miles apart. We could not have done synchronous database mirroring because of the drastic performance degradation that you would have. But async mirroring worked great. We failed over to DR site regularly, 2-3 times a year, ran production out of it for, a few weeks, and then failed back with it. It works great. All you have to do is, when you want to fail over, set it to synchronous mode, let it catch up, and then do your failover and set it back to async.
There's a Trump DBA handle on Twitter. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yes. I encourage humor in the SQL Server community. It's not me doing it. It's somebody else doing it. But I'm always like, if people want to have fun, that's kind of cool.
What about DBA reactions? Are you still involved with that?
I am. I took a brief hiatus from it while other people kept submitting stuff. Other people were submitting so many things, so I just went in and approved them all the time. And then, of course, I fell back in love with GIFs. I'm like, let me go in and look and see, because it's been, oh my God, there's so many good GIFs these days. So I started queuing them up again. I think I've already got them written through most of next week.
So you're still doing that.
Yeah, I love it. I have a disturbing amount of fun with it.
I think you used to get a newsletter with the DBA reactions.
I cut it back to like only once a week. It was going Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now it's down to either just Tuesday or Thursday. I forget which one because I didn't want to overwhelm people's email boxes. And there were like 5,000 people signed up to get this in their email box every week.
Yeah.
All right. Some of you like that.
the time that somebody called for SQL Critical Care, and they're like, I've heard about you guys from DBA Reactions. I love what we do together. And I'm like, we made a sale. This is sale off of this.
Well, and at that point, they're going to call us, because anybody who's crazy enough to go, I like DBA Reactions, they're my people. They already know exactly what we're like. They know exactly how we work.
Oh, that's fair. Cool. Well, you guys are being fairly quiet today, so I think we'll end there.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us, and we will see you guys next week.